Booktube, welcome to Jackie's Literary Corner. I am Jackie. So, I wanted to, I've already done the mid-year freakout tag, and I wanted to do the mid-year check-in tag. And I've watched a couple of booktubers that I'm familiar with, but it turns out they weren't doing the tag that I thought they were doing. Like I was trying to stick to ones I watch regularly. Like they were either doing the mid-year freakout tag instead of the mid-year check-in tag, or like I know Greg from Supposedly Fun, I clicked on his video and it turns out what he's doing is he's just doing like his own version of the tag, like, or coming up with his own questions, because for him because of the way the books that he reads, some of the questions don't really apply to him. So he decided to make up his own variation. And then I saw Rincey Reed's video. But it turns out instead of doing the tag, she is doing just updating you on how her reading is going so far this year. And I decided, you know what, maybe I'll do it. Maybe I'll still look for it, but I'm just gonna stick to just doing what Rincey Reeds is doing and just kind of updating you. I've already done the mid-year freakout tag. I haven't uploaded it yet, but I will. And I'm just gonna update you guys more specifics and, more information instead of just answering questions about that where you put specific books for the answers. Okay, so I set my goal. My goal this year on both on Storygraph and Goodreads was 100 books. And as of right now, I'm at 37 books. And as far as pages go, I think I'm 16,318 pages. I want to say something like that. I looked at the number just so I could, I knew what it was an hour ago, and now I'm not 100% sure if that's the exact number, but I don't want to, move the screen and so I can see it. I guess I could, but move at least, because I'm the document because what I'll do is I create a document of the list of books I've read so far, and I have that up so I can look at that, so I can refer to that as well. So I was kind of focused on getting every year I'm kind of always focused on making sure I get some series or at least some trilogies read. And I've been kind of focused on Asian authors, reading more Asian authors. And I'm still doing my Tolkien project. My Stephen King, once again, I think it's because Stephen King is most of his books, not all of his books, but there's a lot of his books that I have that are super long. And I haven't read I have not picked up another Stephen King. I bought another Stephen King a week or two ago. Dolores Claiborne by Stephen King, because that was one of the titles I wasn't sure if I would like it or not. But I'm trying to read books by Stephen King that I didn't know if I would like it or not. I probably should not have gotten it Books a Million, but I'm sure I'm gonna like it either way. And I still don't know if I'll ever read the Bill Hodges trilogy, because I don't know if I want to read about a serial killer. I don't mind watching movies, but I don't know, in documentaries, but I don't know about reading a book. So maybe never say never. I might read that trilogy. I'm kind of interested in Holly Chase a little bit, and as a character, I know he's kind of focused on her right now, writing a lot of books with her in it. But so let's see. Do I have any of? Let me see. Let me look at my document. Nothing in the winter time. Spring. Do I have any Stephen King? And this is why I have this document up, so I can look. No, it doesn't look like it. Oh, so yeah, I'm kind of behind on that. I always fail at that project. I know failure is a relative term, but I haven't read any Stephen King. So I need to crack some Stephen King open. But I am also, as far as the Asian project, I haven't read a lot of Filipino literature. I did get some as for my birthday from Terry from Florida. But I'm more kind of in the Japanese literature phase right now. So I've read, like, one of my new favorite authors is Natsumi Soseki. He's a classic author. He is considered the father of modern Japanese literature. Or at least that's what people say. I don't know how true that is or not, but I know I've liked what I've read by him so far. I did read a book that's set in Indonesia. That was this Earth, where is it? Let me find it. Let me find the title. I always stumble on the title. This Earth of Mankind. I don't want to butcher the author's name, but, let's see. And also, I was really happy to say that I finally physically read Lord of the Rings. The whole book. Because I didn't buy them as individuals. I mean, I almost wish I did. Briefly I did consider I should have done that and just, donate that book to the Outpost, but I decided to do it. I finally sent down in the winter in the beginning. And it took me 2 months, which is even better. I read it in 2 months. I'm so proud of myself that I actually read it. Because I have listened to it on audiobook, but I never read it physically. And I watched the movies trilogy dozens of times. I'll do movie marathons starting with the Hobbit movies. Because actually, I know, but I actually kind of like the Hobbit. I enjoy and love the Hobbit movies. I know a lot of people don't. And yes, maybe Peter Jackson did not need to make it this big war epic because it's not true to what the story is, but I think he's got the skeleton of the story. He's just made a little more epic. And I know a lot of people don't like that, and I know Tolkien's own family, or, his own son, Christopher Tolkien, was not happy with it. And I get that, I respect that, but I'm not gonna not enjoy it. I like it, so I watch it still. But I had not read the original Lord of the Rings physically, so I finally did. I'm so happy. I enjoyed it so much. And I also read the Silmarillion, which I think is an accomplishment too, because that's a little bit harder to read. I always refer to it as the Bible of Middle-earth, because it's kind of does a similar thing to what the Bible does, where it's the origins, how the world was made, and all the different races, and how the gods of Middle-earth created, all the different species, and it's basically the same as the Christian Bible. And of course, Tolkien himself was Catholic, so it makes sense that is what inspired him, I think. And but I was very happy that I read that as well, because it's a bit dense. It doesn't look long, but it's not as long as Lord of the Rings, but it is a dense book, because it's the origins of Middle-earth, and the writing style is not. I feel like not everybody would love the writing style of the Silmarillion. So, and then I also, let's see, what else? That might be all for the Tolkien project I've read. Yeah, I think so. I'm due for reading, so not only am I due for reading some Stephen King, but I'm due for reading some Tolkien as well, or a nonfiction on Tolkien. So I need to fulfill those, and I need to get back to reading books that are Filipino related, related to, at least connected to Filipino literature, like some of nonfiction. There's also, like, I'm still, I haven't touched my Greek mythology project, unless you count taking that class. Like, I took a Greek mythology class this summer. This spring, which sadly was only 4 sessions, but I was still very happy. And the professor he teaches at another school that I don't know where it is where the school actually is, but he's trying to bring it. He's bringing that School of Athens, he calls it, to the Sandhills campus. And they've actually done 2 things. Unfortunately, I was unable to participate. I mean, which was kind of my fault because I didn't think to ask off from work that day. And then, I just got an email for another activity they're gonna do. And I don't know if I could do it. I mean, it would be really fun, but it's, it's a bit of money. I mean, it's a lot to ask. And it's during the time where I'm already asking off a lot from work, so. But I would love to do it, but I'm not going to even. I'm just waiting to see if they're going to have classes, like actual classes on the campus. Although it does make you feel a little left out that I'm not doing it. But anyway, so let's count that, where we actually talked about some of the stuff that I've already read. So that was really fun. So that's the closest I've done so far. I haven't read a lot of Greek mythology, or even retellings for that matter, but I'm hoping to do that. In fact, I did just buy, I actually bought 2 books that the professor talked about. The Epic of Gilgamesh, which is, I don't know if it's considered Greek literature. I think he just brought it up because it was one of the first stories ever written down. It was written on tablets. That was really fun. So I did read that because it was not as long as I was expecting. It was actually kind of short. I mean, I knew it was an epic poem and everything, but I was thinking it was a little chunkier. I mean, maybe if it was a Penguin edition or something, it would still be, it would look a bit chunkier because it would have notes and stuff. But it was really fun to read it. I mean, I'm gonna donate it to the Outpost Bookshop. But I had actually fun reading it. It was like, it's these 2, this King Gilgamesh, and he's not a great guy. He's kind of horrible to women, and, like, kind of an arrogant ass of a guy. And he, this guy known as the Wild Man who lives in the forest, he is brought to Gilgamesh, and his name is Enkidu, and Gilgamesh and Enkidu become good friends. They help each other defeat monsters, like he defeats this beast. They end up pissing off this goddess at one point, and eventually, though, it turns out that because Enkidu had slayed this beast, that this guardian of the forest, he gets punished by getting really sick and dying, and Gilgamesh is heartbroken about that because this guy really became his good friend. And he has a goal too, and he's afraid of dying himself, so his goal is to find a way to become immortal. It's a really cool story. He's not exactly nice to women, I mean, there's a lot of goddess characters, but there's a temple prostitute, and I know the last owner of the book did not like that stuff. Did not appreciate it because of the, but it's still a very entertaining story, actually. Kind of exciting, like, even though it's written in a poem, it is a translate, obviously, so that really helped for me to enjoy it. But I actually got the other book he talked about, which is the Metamorphosis, or not the Metamorphosis, or the Golden Ass, I should say. And it's really called the Golden Ass because it's this guy who's kind of a player who, a man whore who gets turned into a jackass, a literal donkey. And that's the framework of the story. This guy gets turned into a donkey. So that's why they call it the Golden Ass. But it has a very similar type to the Metamorphosis. I can't say it. The great book. I cannot remember what the famous author's name is at the moment. And it's not the Metamorphosis by Kafka. It's a different. I don't know. Maybe I'm the only one who gets those mixed up. But those are completely different things. I mean, I'm glad that the other one is called the Golden Ass, even though, yes, part of the title is similar to the other one that I just mentioned. Metamorphosis. I cannot say it. Dang it. Get tongue-tied saying it. So I haven't. So yeah, my Greek mythology, I've not read anything yet. I just had that class and that's it. Like, we did talk about stuff, and I did sort of do a little bit of reading because some of the in the Metamorphoses, the one about transformation collection, I read at least one of those because it was actually kind of short, so I was able to read it. It was one of those we were talking in class. But one of the other ones we talked about, I actually watched the Lady of the Library, her video discussing the myth that we were talking, which was Eros and Psyche. She discusses that myth. So I kind of cheated and watched that instead of actually reading the myth. Because I think that's the one, that might be the one that's in the Golden Ass. Yeah, that might be the one in the Golden Ass story. So, anyway. And, okay, so what else? Another series I am working my way through the 6 Tudor Queens series. I've read 3 books, which is progress when it comes to that kind of series, because sometimes I have a habit of reading the first book and then taking forever before I get to book 2, if I even get to the next one. So I read Catherine, the One True Queen, Catherine of Aragon, or excuse me, sorry, Catalina, and then I've read the Anne Boleyn, A King's Obsession, and then I read The Haunted Queen by Jane, and then the one about Jane, what's her name? Cannot remember her name. Jane Seymour. I was about to say Jane Fairfax or Jane Eyre, and it's not either one of those. But Jane Seymour. That was the third wife. And I do have books 4 and 5, and then there's one more, book 6, that I don't have yet. But I'm hoping to get it at some point. Anyway, but I had actually got books 4 and 5 for my birthday this year. One from my mom, one from my sister, which was convenient. And I will be cracking those open. I also started the Poldark series. I've only read the first book, so again, that's an example of only reading the first book and taking forever to get to book 2, which, granted, it's not that long because I read Poldark this year. Ross Poldark is the first one. I read that earlier this year. I think in the winter, it doesn't say. Oh, maybe in the spring. I might have read in the spring. Yeah, I did. I read it in the spring. So I will be reading book 2. I need to read book 2 before the end of the year. That's one of the ones I would like to read before the end of the year. And, I definitely love to read book 2, 3, and now I have book 4, so I can jump into book 4 too. I have all the books, basically, which is a relief that I have them all now. Because some of them the book 4 was the only one that was not at the Outpost. I hadn't seen it. So, and I almost, I might have seen it once there. But I had not, it wasn't there, and I saw all the other books, I bought all the other books, but 4 was not there, so and finally, I just ordered it off of Thrift Books. It's like, let me just get it off of Thrift Books. Let's see. And I've also completed a lot. I've completed Under the Northern Sky trilogy. Of course, like I said, Lord of the Rings, if you count that as a trilogy. And and then I finished the Wax and Wayne series. I read the last book this spring, which was The Lost Metal, and I enjoyed that. I thought that was really good. Let's see. And I'm currently, as other series go, I'm currently reading Royal Assassin. And I haven't got back to Madship yet, but I'm trying to get that Farseer done first. My reread of Farseer done first before I get back to the Live Ship Traders. And a lot of people say that you should read the Farseer and then read the Live Ship Traders. a lot of people recommend you should do. Which actually, my friend Larissa is reading the series as well, and she ended up deciding to just read through all the Fitz stories instead of just reading, instead of skipping and reading the Farseer, then Live Ship, and then another Fitz series, and then other series, and she's just gonna read Fitz's arc all the way through, all 12 books that are related to Fitz. I don't know if that will spoil. I mean, that's why a lot of people say read that. Sometimes you gotta read some of the other series first before you get back into the next Fitz series. So we will see what she says. I'll see what she says. And so as far as Big Book, like I said, Lord of the Rings, I read Giants of the Earth, in the Earth, which I did not realize was a Scandinavian story, that it was translated, which that makes me feel, I'm very excited. It's nice to, like, I feel very proud when I stumble upon it, because, you know, I probably don't read enough translated works that aren't classics, so it's kind of, you know, and sometimes, of course, if you shop at places like Books A Million, there's no guarantee you're gonna read, you know, translated works, or you might stumble on them, but they're not gonna be they're gonna be the more popular stuff, rather than anything, you know, anything obscure, or that's not as popular, like, or you might randomly stumble on an obscure author, but you only come across their book once, like Robert Bolaño is a, you know, I was not familiar until I started watching the channel The Life of the Library or something, or Library Life, I cannot remember the channel. I'll have to recommend, I'll put the channel in the description. But one of the hosts of that, Andy, he talked about Bolaño being one of his favorite authors. And of course, I had stumbled on Bolaño's The Savage Detectives before I started watching that channel. And then I started watching that channel, and he mentioned Bolaño, and I was really excited. I was like, oh, wait, I think I have one of his books. And I think Andy was saying how he did read it, that he did read The Savage Detectives. And I just got lucky the other day at the Outpost bookshop, or a few weeks ago, and saw another book by Bolaño. So I immediately bought it. I was like, I'm definitely buying this. I'm not gonna wait, because I love The Savage Detectives. I really enjoyed that. Filipino literature is another one that it's very slim that I'm gonna find anything. Japanese literature and Chinese literature, I think I'm gonna stumble on those, or even Korean literature. I'm gonna have more of a chance of finding those, rather than, you know, Filipino literature. So I did, but yeah, it's exciting when you actually spot something that you wouldn't normally find. And used bookstores are really good for that. I feel like there's more of a chance that you're going to find some of those more obscure things, or not as known works, at an used bookshop, because, you know, a lot of people just will randomly donate some of those kinds of books that aren't as known, and, you know, at used bookshops. So that was really exciting that I found, like, Giants in the Earth being one of those more obscure that I wasn't familiar with at the Outpost bookshop. And I read it and I enjoyed it. Because sometimes, you know, I'm like thinking, you know, I feel like, okay, I need to comb my shelves and pick some books, and sometimes I end up, because of feeling this anxiousness and feeling guilty, I end up calling books that I don't even touch. And I miss out on reading a great book, potentially. So this was one of the ones I debated about keeping or not, and I finally decided to read it. And it was actually, you know, even though it was a really chunky book, like the 500 page mark, I got through it pretty quick. And it did have big print, which I think can potentially help. So, but I really enjoyed that. So, that's Giants in the Earth by Oe Rovag. Sorry, I apologize. I don't know how to pronounce it, but that it's Giants in the Earth is the title. And I did read. Let's see. As far as let's see, what else can I talk about for you guys? I did kind of tried a couple of different things lately. I feel like it's like God of the Woods. That's more thriller, I would say. Piglet was more of a drama. And I finally just listened to Confederacy of Dunces. I listened to that on audiobook because I figure it'll be easier to consume if I listen to it, because I do still kind of struggle with satire and wanting to know how I should react to satire. And that, I think that really helped. I enjoyed it a lot more just listening to it rather than reading it myself, reading the physical copy. And it was very entertaining. The character of Ignatius P. Reilly, his name is so easy for me to remember. So obnoxious and annoying. But he wasn't, yes, the story was kind of about him and his mother and his relationship with everybody in his community. But we did spend time with other people in the community, which I didn't even think about that. And listening to an audiobook helped remind me of that. So we weren't with Ignatius all the time. But oh my god, there were so many times I wanted to strangle him. He is those people that, it's funny reading about him or seeing a movie about that type of character, but if you knew him in real life, he is so annoying and such a jerk and so prejudiced to people and thinks he's Mr. Cool Guy and just is so arrogant and thinks that the world owes him, and he's so lazy and just like he thinks he deserves more than he really does. He's entitled and is like, he was just that character that you just couldn't stand to be around. You want to smack him. And you feel sorry for the people in his life, like his mom. You want them to not have to deal with him. And I wanted, and I constantly wanted to see what was going to happen, if he would get some comeuppance for his bad attitude. But like I said, listening to it helped make it a little more funny and tolerable, being in this guy's head most of the book. And I know that's kind of the point of satire, like, it's kind of making fun of people, like, it's kind of making fun of something, and satire's kind of hard, because it's like, I don't know how I'm supposed to react. Am I supposed to laugh? Am I supposed to get annoyed? I mean, is it okay if I get annoyed with the character, or if I get annoyed, does it mean I'm not appreciating the satire of it because I'm getting mad? Now, I don't mean when I get mad, I'm not thinking, oh, this is a bad book. I'm just, I'm just like, okay, I thought for a second I had something on my face. It was frustrating being in his character while I was actually physically reading the book. That's why I DNF'd it. But I changed my mind and decided to listen to it on audiobook. I haven't looked at anything on my Kindle, but I have attempted recently to get back into reading my Kindle. And, reading what's on there at the moment. Like, I'm still reading War and Ruin by Ryan Cahill, the third book in the Bound in the Broken series, and I actually got, introduced it to Larissa. So she's considering it. And although I don't know if she'll get on Libby. She might have to actually buy a physical copy. I don't know if the author's on Libby or not, because he originally is published independently. So I don't know if it has an audiobook version. But I hope she gets to it. She sounded like she was interested and intrigued by the premise. It sounded like right up her alley. So I hope she gets to it. I am still trying to get back into fantasy at the moment. But, like, I recently purchased a couple fantasy books. Because, like, when I went to the Outpost, so I make friends with the cashiers a lot of times. I just have conversations with them, and they've met me at where I work as well. And one of the women that works, one of the cashiers, like, you know, I remember you, like, really like fantasy. You're always looking at the fantasy books. And she's like, oh, we actually have some fantasy that I haven't shelved yet. So she let me go in the back of the room and look at the fantasies that she hasn't put on the shelves. So I was really excited. There was one more that I was tempted to look at. And I probably could. It's not like she was going to stop me. It's just, I was, you know, felt like, oh, let me just go and not give myself any more options to choose from. So I stuck with that, and I want to crack open some of these fantasy books. But I'm always thinking, oh, I have so many other books I haven't read, or books I've started that I need to finish those first before I open another one. But part of me wonders if I should just crack one open and just get back into it like I am, you know, rereading Royal Assassin by Robin Hobb. But we'll see. What else can we talk about for you guys? Okay, so let me just go through and so what I've read so far. As I said in that mid-year freak out tag, I was kind of disappointed by The Nutcracker and the Mouse King by E.T.A. Hoffmann. I mean, I knew it wasn't super long, but I don't know. I'm just used to, like, the adaptations where there's aspects of the plot that are made bigger, and, like, they talk about how it's a whole world, and we don't really spend time in the world of, I'm just gonna, for sake of argument, the Four Realms is what I'm gonna call it. As far as I did comedy horror, I don't know if I would consider this comedy horror, but Black Sheep was really fun to listen to. It was one of my audiobooks. And I love the main character of that, Vesper. So that one was it was a little bit of dark humor, you know, and cult stuff, like there's a Satanist cult involved in the story. So I still have not read the Rosetti Letter, and I think that one is the one that has the sequel that I'm hoping to get on Kindle. Because I ended up deciding to donate that book, even though I did enjoy it. I had a good time with the book, but I just decided to pass it on because probably wasn't gonna reread it again. So it was put in the donation pile, and I think I already took it to the bookstore. I think. I don't know. I would have to go through the bag and see the bags over in the corner of my room and see. But I'm just gonna. I do want to read the sequel book, but I'm gonna get that one on Kindle. Just gonna get that one on Kindle, and at some point. And then, let's see. I've read some more nonfiction, like The War of the Roses. Let's see what other nonfiction have I read. Is there any other nonfiction? Is that the only one? Maybe that's the only one nonfiction I read this so far. Oh, The Diary of Lady Murasaki, who is the author of The Tale of Genji. And I almost bought, that was one of the ones I almost bought via Thrift Books. But I decided to not get that one because I was trying to go for the deal of we got at least one free book that's under $6. That has to be $6 or less. And it was still, I mean, it wasn't as expensive, like $32, but it was still, you know, it was still a little more pricey. So I opted to not get that one and get that one, and it's still on one of my wish list. So maybe I'll get it for Christmas, or maybe I'll buy it, and maybe I'll buy it myself someday, at some point. But I'm gonna try to wait a little bit before I make any other purchases. Off of Thrift Books. Let's see. Yeah, I guess that's really the only nonfiction. Oh, dang it, that's the only nonfiction I read. Well, I definitely need to read some nonfiction. Like, maybe I'll read, are you sure that's the only? Yeah, I guess there's really only two that I read this year. Two nonfictions. I think. Was there another one? Did I? Yeah. Okay. Yeah. So the Diary of Leaving. That's nonfiction. And so let's see. Translated works. So I need to crack down on that. Maybe read some nonfiction before the end of the year. It's hard because one of the nonfictions I definitely need to get back to is the Walt Disney biography on my Neil Gabler, but it's still a chunky book, and ideally that might be a good book to consider reading now for personal reasons. Well, I guess I can say because it's not like my nephews and niece are gonna watch this, but we're talking about going to Disney with the family, so I this November we're talking about going to Disney at some point for the end of the year, so I feel like I should read the Walt Disney biography by Neil Gabler for the end of the year, but it's still a big book, so I feel like I'm gonna read some other nonfiction first before I get to that one. What else? Okay, what else do I want? I read the third Gilmore. So actually, I've read 3 nonfictions. Although I've listened to the third Gilmore, I didn't actually read it. I listened to it on audiobook. So I guess that's another nonfiction. I also read Shakespeare. My only Shakespeare play was Macbeth. Let's see. So, let's do the translated work. Let me split translation. Do I don't know if the Rosetta. Yeah, I don't think that's translated. So, Wintertime, I've only read one translated work, and that was Giants in the Earth. And 1, 2. So that's 2. The Song of the Jade Lily by Christy Manning. I don't think that's translated, but I think it's because I think that was from originally published in an English-speaking country. That doesn't speak like Australia. I think that was originally published in Australia, so that one doesn't count. Oh, I also listened to Dragon Teeth by Michael Crichton, so I finally got another Michael Crichton book under my belt. So I'm happy about that because I do like Michael Crichton. So let's see. Okay, I gotta recount this again because I got off track. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. I don't know if you would count Gilgamesh as. If you count Gilgamesh as 1, then I guess 7. So I've read 7. So I've read some good amount of. I mean, it's kind of spread out, but I've read a good chunk of translated works. So let's see. As far as fantasy goes, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, I guess no, that doesn't count. So it's 12, 13, 13. Gilgamesh, because you can count Gilgamesh as fantasy. So 13, fantasy related stories. So that's good. Oh, wait, I guess it would be 12 because did I count Black Sheep? I think I almost counted Black Sheep. No, I think it's 13. So I'm getting better, getting back into fantasy. Which that's, important. And I mean, I am in, like I said, the Lord of the Rings, Tolkien project. I finally read the main stories. And so let's see. And 3 nonfictions. So yeah, I feel like I'm doing pretty well. I feel very satisfied with how my reading is going so far. That I've slowly made progress. I mean, there's still some projects that I feel like I need to, do better at making progress, like the Stephen King project, Greek Anthology project. Oh, I guess let me talk about the medieval one. So medieval project, we have 1, 2, I'm trying to count all them. 3, yeah, only 3. So 2 books in a series, books 2 and 3 of the Six Tudor Queen series, and then the War of the Roses book. So I'm kind of slow with that one. I mean, Stephen King is the only one that's really lacking. So maybe the rest of the summer I'll pick up a Stephen King book. Like I said, I did buy Dolores Claiborne, which is shorter, but I feel like there are other Stephen King books I need to get to first before, like the next book in the Dark Tower series, book 4, which I started already, and I put it down and have not picked it up. So there is that, and then I just, even though, I've read 3 books for my medieval project, I like to read, more. I do want to start reading some Philippa Gregory, and of course continue to read Alison Weir and her books. I have some of her nonfictions, and of course I've got the Tudor Queen series by her, and a few more Philippa Gregory books. And there's a couple other random authors I've got books from that are in that same time period. I've been slowly collecting those. When I say medieval history, it's not just the non-fiction stuff, but also the fiction. A mix of both. I've been slowly accumulating those. I mean, that is a little bit easier to do, right? That is actually easier to do, to get the books, and then you gotta read them. And I haven't done that yet. So I need to get on that and read those before I buy any more books. I mean, that's probably not going to happen, but I can try. So I gotta do that as well. So those are the 2 I want to really make sure I focus on the rest of the summer, and going into, into autumn, and, and coming full circle, going back to winter. And also, and of course I'm gonna keep going with my other projects, like my Asian Reads project, and Greek mythology project. So I guess really it's not the medieval literature project, but it's the Greek mythology and Stephen King project. Those are the ones that I need to focus the most on. Oh, and then the Tolkien project. That's right. That's the other one I need to work on. And the only problem is there's so many projects I'm working on that it's hard to keep up with it, because I'm so excited. And one of them is gonna be bound to fall by the wayside, but I still am going to do it. I still want to do, you know, all his projects because I can't decide which ones I would want to focus on. So I'm just focusing on all of them. So that's probably all I gotta say for you guys. I mean, it's not very organized. It's more rambly update video. But I hope you guys enjoyed it. Are any of you, like, I think I've already asked this before, are any of you do projects, reading projects? I would love to know. Or are you doing, and do you feel content with are you happy with your reading right now? How is it going so far? Whether you're very plan-oriented and organized, or you're just reading whatever. As long as, you know, not whatever as in you don't, you know, whatever you want to read. Or are you, you know, when this part of those of us who kind of has a bit of a plan, or like an idea of specifics that you want to read? Would love to know. I hope you enjoyed my, you know, update on how my reading is going so far this year, and I guess I will let you go and talk to you guys later. All right. Bye.